What's up, guys? Today we're going to be replacing a valve cover on my 2014 BMW 328D. This is the N47 engine, so it's going to apply to a lot of different models of cars, but the main symptom when your valve cover gasket is leaking is as the oil drips down onto the exhaust manifold, it burns off, and then right here is also where the intake for the blower motor is. So then that burnt oil smell goes all into the cabin. Depending on how bad it's leaking, you might not notice it all the time, especially if the car is moving, but at a stoplight, it's really starting to smell, so that's why we're going to tackle this today. The valve covers on these cars, like most modern cars, are made of plastic, so I'm going to be replacing the entire assembly. My general rule is if the car is older than 10 years or has more than 200,000 kilometers, I replace the entire piece and not just the gasket. Over time, the plastic can start to get brittle and either have little micro cracks, so even if you replace the gasket, it might not seal properly. And then there's also the integrated PCV system, which can get gummed up over time, so this is much more expensive, but in my opinion, it's the right way to do it. But the instructions are going to be the exact same, whether you're replacing the entire valve cover or just the gasket, so let's get started. First, we got to get these covers off. We've also got to get this weather stripping off, so take out the positive cable that goes to the ECU. Now we've got to get this strut brace off. Now this should slide right out, but just be careful because you've got the positive battery cable connection here, so you don't want to accidentally short this out. As a best practice, always disconnect the battery before you start working. Now we got to take off this back cowl. Now we got to get this sound dampening out of the way. So 2 clips and then this slides right up. Get the main sound insulation out of here. Now we got to remove all the injectors, but this area is really dirty. So first I'm going to come in here with some compressed air just to prevent any of that stuff from falling into the engine once we open it up. Now first I'm going to remove these leakage lines, and so to do that you just gently pry up on this plastic, just like that. And then just be careful when you're doing this because chances are these clips haven't been touched since the car left the factory, so they're going to be very brittle and you don't want to break them. Once all the clips are opened, just gently pry up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to wrap this in a clean rag so that nothing gets into these lines. And then we can just gently tuck it on the side for now. Now I'll undo the electrical connectors. Now we can do the high pressure fuel pump rail. So this is a 19 and just have a rag handy because, like I said, this is under pressure. To get the accumulator out, we have one connector at the front here. There's this return line we need to disconnect. So just push the white tab down. Probably can't see this with my arm here, but squeeze and pull up. Now we've got 4 E10s holding the accumulator down. And then lastly, we've just got the high pressure feed line that comes from the high pressure fuel pump. According to the service manual, they actually want you to remove the intake manifold so that you can completely disconnect this feed line that runs in between the engine and the manifold. But if you just loosen it up here, there's enough room to get it out and you save yourself a whole bunch of time. So first I just got to get this connector out of the way here. And so now with a bit of wiggling, we should be able to get all these up and sneak this out and away. Okay, first I'm just going to get this injector wiring harness out of the way. What size even is this thing? Oh my god, E6. Okay, so this should come up. Okay, now there we go. Just be careful, if you dump this over, all the fuel is going to come out, so dump it into a bucket or something so you don't make a mess. And place it somewhere where it's not going to get any dirt or contamination in it. Interesting. Get this out of the way. Now we can remove all the injector hold downs. And well, here comes the fun part, which is actually getting the injector out. So I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but this injector has obviously been replaced because these have a little bit of surface rust on them, and this one is brand new. You're supposed to be able to just wiggle these things out, twisting it back and forth. This one I think I won't have too much trouble with because it's pretty new. Oh yeah, there we go. Once they come out, a couple of things. So first, you want to be sure that this copper gasket comes out as well. Sometimes they get stuck in the bore. Second of all, you'll see that they're completely greased. So this one came out fairly easily because it's been replaced, but I have a feeling these will probably be a bit more difficult. And then lastly, just be careful with the actual tip of the injector because the holes are very small and easily clogged. Check out this BMW special tool made for cleaning injector bores. Once you work an injector out, there's usually a whole bunch of corrosion on the injector, but also in the bore. To clean it properly, the special tool comes with two parts. This piece is a long stick with a removable plug, so you can put it down into the injector bore so that nothing falls into the engine when you're cleaning. Push it all the way down, and then unscrew it so that the plug stays in the bore, and the tool comes out. Start by cleaning the bore with a rag to get any of the loose oils first. Now you grab this special tool, which when you press down, there's a wire brush that comes out. Slide it into the injector bore, then push down, and that way that wire brush starts to work on that bottom surface. Work the brush both ways, up and down, side to side. Then you pull the brush up first, and the rest of the component. Now you can blow it out with some compressed air. Now that it's nice and clean, you put this tool back down, screw it back onto the plug, and pop it right back out. And now the bore's like brand new, ready for a perfect seal. So I mean, those injectors are really the hardest part of this job. So now that that's out of the way, we've just got a little bit of wiring we have to remove on the perimeter, and then we'll be able to get the whole valve cover off. So I'm going to start with this breather hose right here. So on the top, there's an electrical connector, and then on the bottom, there's a plastic tab. So this comes off together. You want to be really careful here because this hose is not replaceable independently. It's part of the massive air intake hose, and it costs several $100s. So just be very, very gentle here. Now we'll get this wiring out. So this is out. Gonna unclip anything that is clipped onto the valve cover. All right, all this stuff stays here, and then all these wires will come out with this bracket. Okay, so this is loose. One more 8mm hold down. And now we should be able to pick all of this up, and this entire piece folds back over. Doesn't need to be completely. This, I think, is good. One thing that I forgot is actually we have to remove this kind of oil funnel here, and you just rotate this. Let's see. Helps if you take out the screw. Okay, and now, well, that makes it easier. And this thing just slides right off. So at this point, I think we're pretty much home free. The only thing that might cause us a bit of a problem is this high pressure feed line here. Again, the service manual said that I'm supposed to remove the entire intake manifold and remove it, but that's a lot of extra work, and I think we'll probably be able to sneak this out, but we'll see. To undo the valve cover bolts, if you're gonna be keeping the valve cover, follow the sequence that I'm gonna put up on screen, because when you're loosening them, you need to loosen them in a certain order to prevent any warping or cracking of the plastic. Since we're replacing it, I do not care. Let's try and pry this off. Yeah, well, I mean, this is the original valve cover, so obviously it's gonna be hard to get off, but it's always a fun game. Is it a bolt that I'm missing, or is it just stuck on here really well? So I'm just gonna run my finger along and make sure that I didn't forget anything. Okay, well, I think that's it. So again, since I'm not keeping the valve cover, I'm gonna use a little bit of extra force, but obviously if you're keeping yours, try and be a little bit more gentle when you do this. Oh yeah. Okay, almost. Beautiful. It also gives us the opportunity to kind of check out the health of the engine. All these cam lobes look absolutely beautiful, and the most important part that everyone always wonders on the N47, how's the timing chain doing? There's definitely a bit of play, but absolutely nothing to be concerned about. So this makes me very happy because eventually I do want to do a video showing you guys how to do the timing chain on this car, but it's not something that I need to do anytime soon. Here's the valve cover up close, and like I said, there's several different things that are integrated into these, like the PCV. Now, this one is fine, but this rubber is really thin and over time has a tendency to crack, and then that'll cause a vacuum leak and rough running of the car. These pieces are also not available separately as OE parts. Now, there are some aftermarket options, but at a certain age, and again, my gauge is either 10 years or 200,000 kilometers, I always recommend that people replace the entire unit rather than just the gasket. Now, obviously, there's a huge price difference. A genuine BMW valve cover gasket set is about 50 bucks, and depending on the car, the entire cover is close to 500. In terms of aftermarket covers, in my experience, don't even waste your time. Yes, they are less than half the price of an OE cover, but they also work for less than half the time, and the fitment isn't great to begin with. Not saying they're all bad, but I personally hate doing the same job twice, so it's genuine BMW in this case. Most of these valve covers are made by Mahle. Now on this one, there's no markings, but for whatever reason, you can't buy these as an OE part from the manufacturer. You can only get it as genuine BMW. Now we'll just give this a quick wipe down. Now we can get our brand new valve cover on here. So I'll put the rubber grommet back on the feed line. And then this, I just want to be sure I'm not scratching the cams. So now that this is seated nicely, I'm going to run all the bolts in by hand to make sure that they're not cross-threaded, and then torque to 10 Newton meters. And now there's not a specific torque tightening sequence here, but it just says start from the inside and work your way out in a diagonal pattern. Now I'm going to start reassembling everything. So I'll start with this oil funnel. There is an O-ring on here and I would have liked to have replaced it if possible, but I didn't think to purchase it and I need to put it back together right now. So it's going on like this. This is technically torqued to 3.6 Newton meters, so very light torque with a 1/4 inch ratchet is good. Gonna put the oil cap back on too, just to prevent anything from falling in. This, as you can see, was leaking a little bit here, but what's good is that the valve cover comes with a new O-ring right here, so that should resolve that. I'll put another rag down covering the injector holes while we work. So now I can swing all of these connectors back over here. Try and give this a bit of a wipe down here so we're not putting that much dirty stuff back onto the car. Now I didn't bother looking up the torque spec for any of these things, but these are all going into plastic. So again, like we did for the oil cap, just hand tight with a 1/4 inch tool and you'll be good. 1 T20 on this sensor, and then 1/8 on this wire harness in the back. Now I'm going to clip all these connectors back in. Now I'm going to reinstall the injectors. So we need to replace this copper seal with a new one. And then to prevent them from seizing, we actually have to put grease on the entire injector body. Now, I don't know if every manufacturer does this, but it's definitely a good idea because I was able to remove every single one of these injectors by hand. So you put it all the way down to the base and then all the way up through the top. And now we can slide it into the hole. And these just slide right down. As you can see when it's lined up, it just pushes down, and then what's actually doing the clamping force is the injector hold down. Like I said before, very important to keep these in the correct order that you took them out, and we can slide it in. And then these are torqued to 26 Newton meters. Now we can slide the fuel rail back in. So again, with this feed line here, it's kind of a pain, but if you just push on it a bit, you're able to make enough room to squeeze it in. This probably should have passed through first. Oh well. Now we can torque these all down to 24 Newton meters. Now we can slide the cam sensor back in. That's another O-ring that I would have liked to have replaced, but unfortunately I didn't have it, so it's going back like this. And it's another screw going right into plastic, so just hand tight is good. So now we can clip all these things back in. Another plastic screw on this injector harness hold down. Now we can plug back in this return, plug back in the cam sensor, and slide the returns back onto the injectors. Last couple of connectors here. So this plate slides into the valve cover, which is a pretty interesting design, but whatever. So that's pretty much it. Now we're just gonna put all of our sound insulation and cowls back in, and we'll be good to go. No torque spec on these as far as I can see. Slide in the strut bar. Slide our beauty cover back on. And now the last thing we have to do before starting the car is do a fuel system bleed in ISTA. We'll just hook up to the car. I'm using my ICOM, but any Ethernet cable works fine. So I've got a couple of faults in the car, but we don't care about that for right now. All we want to do is go into vehicle management and then under service functions, powertrain, DDE, and fuel system bleeding. So you might be thinking, well, is this really necessary? Isn't this kind of overkill doing a whole fuel system bleeding just because I cracked open the injectors? And I understand because I had the same reaction last time when I replaced the diesel fuel filter. The service manual says you have to do a fuel system bleeding as well. I actually tried to do it in ISTA, but you have to have more than, I think, 20 liters of fuel in a tank, and I was running a little bit low, so I couldn't even perform the ISTA test. I ended up starting the car anyway, and obviously it worked fine, but a couple of people commented why it's so important, and basically what it comes down to is that on a diesel, the whole fuel system is lubricated with that diesel fuel. So now that we've cracked it open, we've got a big air bubble in the system, and it's going to take a couple of seconds of cranking before the fuel pressure builds up and the car is able to start. Meanwhile, while the car is cranking, that high pressure fuel pump is going to be spinning and pumping with no lubrication. And the high pressure fuel pumps used in these cars are the CP4 pumps, which are already fragile enough as it is, so you don't want to be introducing any extra wear that you don't have to. So to make a long story short, yes, you can start the car without doing this, but it's definitely something that I would recommend doing. So now we'll just click bleed fuel system. Yes, it's going to take about 120 seconds. Okay, it says we might get these codes after doing this, so I don't care. We'll just delete everything afterward. So with that done, let's start it up. And there you go, good as new. So that definitely resolved the oil burning smell inside the car. Now, like I said, this is a super common issue, and honestly, I'm surprised it took over 300,000 kilometers for it to pop up. But either way, that's it for today, guys. This is a fairly easy DIY that you could do at home in a couple of hours, but you do need access to either ISTA or some type of a scan tool to be able to do that fuel system bleeding at the end. Now stay tuned because it's springtime, it's getting nice outside. I've got a lot of content coming, including part 3 of Project 335i Wagon, where you guys will finally see the first start. Thanks, guys.